Cressida Bonas just served up the most explosive truth bomb since someone told the world that pineapple doesn't belong on pizza. Harry was never this miserable until Meghan came along, she declared, and honestly, the audacity of this woman to speak facts so boldly has me absolutely living for it. But buckle up, because what happened next will make your jaw drop harder than Harry's popularity ratings. So, let's paint this picture for you. There's Prince Harry, right? The ginger prince, who was basically the golden retriever of the royal family. This man was out here living his absolute best life, showing up to charity events with a smile brighter than the crown jewels, cracking jokes that made even the queen chuckle behind her gloves. He was the royal family's comic relief, their get-out-of-jail-free card whenever they needed someone to charm the public and make everyone forget about their stuffiness. But then something happened that changed everything, and I mean everything. Enter Cressida Bonas, actress, model, and apparently the woman with the clearest vision in all of Britain. This girl dated Harry for 2 whole years, which in royal terms is basically a PhD in royal behavioral studies with a minor in palace drama. She watched this man go from being the prince who'd show up to events in flip-flops if he could get away with it, to becoming, well, whatever he is now. And let me tell you, her timing with this revelation is more perfect than a royal wedding tiara. She waits until Harry's knee-deep in his Hollywood era, making Netflix documentaries about his feelings and writing tell-all books thicker than a dictionary, to drop this nuclear truth bomb. The woman's been sitting on this observation like it's classified information, and now she's declassifying it for the world to see. But here's where the story gets juicier than royal scandal. You see, when Cressida knew Harry, he was genuinely happy. Not the kind of happiness you perform for cameras or the kind you talk about in therapy sessions that get turned into Netflix specials. We're talking about real, authentic, can't fake this level of joy. The man would show up to polo matches like he was heading to his own birthday party. He'd interact with kids at charity events, and you could see his face light up like Christmas morning. Now, the guy gives interviews where he looks like he's discussing his own funeral arrangements. The transformation has been so dramatic, wildlife documentarians should have been following him around with cameras. We went from watching a prince who seemed like he'd rather be anywhere else having fun, to watching a prince who seems like he'd rather be anywhere else, period. And that's when Cressida's words hit different, because she's not just some random ex throwing shade. This woman watched Harry navigate royal duties while still maintaining his sanity and sense of humor. She saw him deal with the pressure of being the spare, the constant media attention, the family drama, all of it, while still being fundamentally happy with who he was. He wasn't trying to change the world back then, he was just trying to make it a little brighter with his presence. But then came the plot twist that nobody saw coming, not even the royal fortune tellers. Harry met someone who made him want to completely reinvent himself. And look, we've all been there, right? You meet someone, and suddenly you're convinced you need to become this whole new person to be worthy of their love. Except most of us don't do it on the world stage with cameras recording every single moment of our identity crisis. The man went from being content with cutting ribbons and playing charity polo to wanting to revolutionize the entire monarchy. It's like watching someone go from enjoying casual weekend basketball to deciding they need to personally reform the entire NBA. The ambition is admirable, but the execution? Well, that's where things get interesting. And here's what's absolutely killing me about this whole situation. Cressida's observation isn't even mean-spirited. She's not out here trying to destroy Harry's reputation or throw him under the double-decker bus. She's just stating facts like a nature documentary narrator. In his natural habitat, the young prince displayed behaviors consistent with contentment and joy. However, following significant environmental changes, these behaviors shifted dramatically. The woman's got the observational skills of Sherlock Holmes and the timing of a stand-up comedian. She waited until Harry's deep in his finding myself through public therapy sessions era to remind everyone that he used to be genuinely happy without all the soul-searching and documentary making. But wait, because this story has more layers than a royal wedding cake. When Harry was with Cressida, his biggest controversies were showing up late to events or maybe wearing the wrong tie to a formal dinner. The man's problems were so manageable, they barely qualified as problems. Now, He's got more drama than a reality TV show marathon, more public feuds than a rapper, and more tell-all content than a celebrity autobiography section. The irony is thicker than the Queen's morning tea. Here's a guy who had a relatively simple path laid out for him. Show up, smile, cut ribbons, play some polo, support some charities, maybe find a nice aristocratic wife, and have some royal babies. It wasn't revolutionary, but it worked, and more importantly, he seemed genuinely happy doing it. Instead, he chose the path that's more complicated than assembling IKEA furniture blindfolded. He traded a life where his biggest decision was which charity event to attend for a life where he's constantly having to justify every choice he's made since he was 18. The man went from living in palaces to living in Montecito, which is beautiful, sure, but he's also traded centuries of tradition for having to explain himself to Oprah on international television. And through it all, Cressida's sitting somewhere, probably watching this unfold like it's the most expensive soap opera ever produced, thinking, I could have told you this would happen. She's got that ex-girlfriend energy that we all secretly admire. The one who saw the red flags but didn't say anything until it was socially acceptable to speak up. But here's the part that'll make you laugh until your sides hurt. Harry's probably reading about Cressida's comments right now, sitting in his multi-million-dollar mansion, surrounded by organic produce and sustainable furniture, wondering if maybe she had a point. The man who once partied in Vegas like it was his personal playground is now giving lectures about mental health and royal responsibility like he's running for pope. Don't get me wrong, mental health awareness is important, and calling out toxic family dynamics is valid. But the transformation from let's party in Vegas to let me explain my childhood trauma in a 6-part documentary series happened faster than you can say Netflix deal. And meanwhile, Cressida dodged this bullet like she had supernatural powers. She's out here living her best life, probably dating people who don't come with their own Wikipedia controversies section and family feuds that get covered by international news outlets. While Harry's explaining his relationships to the world through carefully produced content, she's keeping her personal life actually personal. Revolutionary concept, I know. The woman understood something that apparently everyone else missed. Sometimes the person you fall in love with is perfect exactly as they are, without needing a complete personality overhaul and geographical relocation. She dated the Happy Prince and was content with the Happy Prince. She didn't need him to become a documentary filmmaker, podcast host, and professional royal family critic to validate their relationship. But here's the plot twist that makes this whole story even more ridiculous. Harry's happiness levels have become international news. Think about that for a second. We're living in a world where a prince's emotional state is analyzed by media outlets like it's the stock market. When Cressida knew him, his happiness was just a natural part of who he was. Now it's content for streaming platforms and best-selling memoirs. The man went from being privately happy to being publicly miserable for profit. And that's not even criticism. It's just an observation that's more obvious than a neon sign in Times Square. He's monetized his own emotional journey in a way that would make reality TV producers jealous. And through all of this chaos, all of this international drama and family feuding and documentary making, Cressida's revelation cuts through the noise like a knife through butter. He was never this miserable until Meghan. 5 words that carry more weight than all the royal jewels combined. It's not an attack on anyone. It's just an observation from someone who knew Harry when happiness came naturally to him, not when it had to be discussed in therapy sessions and documented for public consumption. The timing of her speaking up is absolutely perfect too. She waited until Harry's deep in his reimagining my entire existence phase to remind everyone that his previous existence was actually pretty great. It's like watching someone throw away a perfectly good sandwich to go searching for ingredients to make a sandwich, and then someone says, "Hey, remember when you had that sandwich and you were totally satisfied with it?" So here we are, folks, living in a timeline where an ex-girlfriend's simple observation has become the most talked about royal commentary since someone decided to interview Harry and Meghan in the first place. Cressida's out here being the voice of reason we didn't know we needed, serving up reality checks with the precision of a royal chef and the timing of a comedy legend. She's not trying to insert herself into the drama. She's just pointing out what everyone who paid attention already knew. Harry was genuinely happy before he decided happiness needed to be this complicated, documented, and internationally analyzed phenomenon. And the best part? She's probably watching all the reaction to her comments while living her wonderfully private life, thinking, well, I said what I said, and I meant what I meant. Meanwhile, Harry's somewhere in California, probably writing another chapter about how this comment affected his mental health journey for his next book deal. The moral of this beautifully chaotic story? Sometimes the ex-girlfriend sees things clearer than anyone else. Sometimes happiness doesn't need to be fixed if it isn't broken. And sometimes the most explosive truths are just simple observations that everyone was thinking but nobody had the guts to say. But hey, at least we're all entertained. And isn't that what really matters in this royal circus we call modern monarchy?